Okay, well, in our lesson so far, we've seen uh, in last week how the Israelites had refused to enter the land that God had promised to give them. The spies who'd gone in to spy out the land, 10 of them came back with a discouraging report, which put the people off. And Joshua and Caleb, in contrast, tried to encourage the people to go up immediately and to possess the land. But the influence of the 10 spies was felt amongst the people, and they refused to go. And as a result of that, God said that they would have to wander in the wilderness for 40 years until all of that adult generation, those aged 20 and above, who'd come out of Egypt, until they had all died there in the wilderness, and then that new generation would be the ones who would enter the land. We come this evening into chapter 16 of the book of Numbers, and this is just the map that we've been looking at to see where we are. We're at Kadesh Barnea, probably in that sort of region around this time. If you follow the red arrows round, heading up north, you see Kadesh Barnea there, and the arrow going up and around and then looping back down. That was their aborted attempt that the people made to get into the land after they first of all said that they wouldn't do it, and then they tried and then they failed because God was no longer with them. But we come into chapter 16, and very few details are given really of the events that took place during Israel's 40 years in the wilderness. The text really passes over all of this. And it's a time of wandering and waiting as entry into the promised land is postponed until the death of that adult generation who had left Egypt. However, the account of chapter 16 and chapter 17 records for us a series of entangled events and confrontations from that period of that 40 years, which really amount to a challenge to the authority of Moses and to the position of Aaron as high priest. It can be a little difficult to unravel the details of the events and to know here whether there's one rebellion going on here or whether there are two, exactly how they are related to each other, and also exactly when in the 40-year period these incidents occurred is really unknown as well. But we'll begin here in chapter 16 and reading verses 1 to 3, which says, Now Korah, the son of Issachar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, took men, and they rose up before Moses with a number of the people of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, chosen from the assembly, well-known men, and they assembled themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said to them, You have gone too far, for all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord? So the instigators of these rebellions are named here in chapter 16 and verse 1. First of all, there's Korah. He is from the tribe of Levi, and from within that tribe, he's from the family of the Kohathites. And then there are two brothers, Dathan and Abiram, and then a third character named connected with them, On, and those three are from the tribe of Reuben. And they're joined by a group of 250 well-known leaders from amongst the people of Israel. They assemble themselves together to confront Moses and Aaron, and they challenge them with these words, You have gone too far, for all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord? God had called Israel to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. This we saw back in Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 and 6, where the Lord says to them, Now therefore, if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my own possession among all the peoples, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. So God had called the whole nation to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. But here Korah and his fellow rebels took this to mean that everyone was equal, and that it was not only the priests who were set apart to perform the services in the tabernacle. They ignored the fact that God had appointed Moses and Aaron to these special positions of leadership and to the priesthood. And they saw this as Moses and Aaron exalting themselves above the assembly, so acting on their own authority. Well, we read on in chapter 16, verses 4 to 11, to see Moses' reaction to this confrontation. Verse 4 says, When Moses heard it, he fell on his face, and he said to Korah and all his company, In the morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. Him whom he will choose, he will cause to come near to him. Do this, take censers, Korah and all his company, put fire in them and put incense upon them before the Lord tomorrow, and the man whom the Lord chooses shall be the Holy One. You have gone too far, sons of Levi. And Moses said to Korah, Hear now, you sons of Levi, is it too small a thing for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do service in the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to minister to them, and that he has brought you near him and all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you? And would you seek the priesthood also? Therefore it is against the Lord that you and all your company have gathered together. What is Aaron that you murmur against him? So the initial challenge to Moses and Aaron had been expressed in these general terms, that we are all holy and there's no difference between us. But Moses understands this to be a challenge to Aaron's priesthood. Moses' reaction to this was to fall on his face, which is a posture of prayer. So he's praying to God. And Moses proposes a test to see who God wants to serve as priests. So in the morning, they are to take censers and they're to put fire in them and incense on them before the Lord. The burning of the incense was one of the functions of the priests. And then the Lord will reveal who is holy and who he has chosen to come near to him to act as priest. So Korah and the rebels had said to Moses and Aaron, You have gone too far. Well, now Moses throws those same words back at Korah. You have gone too far, sons of Levi. As a member of the tribe of Levi and being from the family of Kohath, Korah already had a role of service to play in the tabernacle. And one of the roles of the Kohathite family, from which Korah comes, was to carry the tabernacle furniture when the people were on the march. We see this back in Numbers chapter 4 and verse 15, where these different roles are given to the different families from the tribe of Levi. And chapter 4, verse 15 says, And when Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sanctuary and all the furnishings of the sanctuary, as the camp sets out, after that the sons of Kohath shall come to carry these, but they must not touch the holy things lest they die. So their role was to carry those items like the lampstand and the table for the bread. And when the people were moving on the march, that was their role. Numbers chapter 10 and verse 21 also makes reference to this, which says, Then the Kohathites set out carrying the holy things, and the tabernacle was set up before their arrival. So that was their job, and Korah, being from that family, that was what he would have been doing. That was his service in the tabernacle. So Moses here reminds Korah of this privilege in verses 8 to 10 there. He says, uh, Hear now, you sons of Levi, is it too small a thing for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do service in the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to minister to them? And that he has brought you near, and all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you. So Moses is reminding them, you have a role. God has given you a role here in the tabernacle. But then, apparently not content with that, Korah and his fellow rebels, not content with that, Moses says to them, and would you seek the priesthood also? Do you want to be priests as well? And Moses concludes in verse 11 by telling them that it is the Lord that they are opposing. Therefore, it is against the Lord that you and all your company have gathered together. What is Aaron that you murmur against him? Why are you complaining about Aaron? Aaron has nothing to do with this. He didn't make this decision. It's the Lord who you are opposing. And so this test then is proposed here. So we'll read chapter 16, verses 12 to 19. So then Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and they said, "We will not come up. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you must also make yourself a prince over us? Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up." And Moses was very angry and said to the Lord, "Do not respect their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, and I have not harmed one of them." And Moses said to Korah, "Be present, you and all your company, before the Lord, you and they, and Aaron tomorrow, and let every one of you take his censer and put incense upon it, and every one of you bring before the Lord his censer, 250 censers, you also and Aaron each his censer." So every man took his censer, and they put fire in them and laid incense upon them, and they stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Then Korah assembled all the congregation against them at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation. So Moses now summoned Dathan and Abiram, and they were mentioned back at the beginning of the chapter as being part of this. He summoned them to join them, but they refused to do so. And their rebellion seems to be a little different to Korah's. They complain that Moses has brought them out of Egypt, which they describe as a land flowing with milk and honey, in order to kill them in the wilderness. So this is the sort of complaint that we've heard previously as well. And what is more, they say that Moses has made himself a prince over them, and he has failed to bring them into the promised land. And they say, "Will you put out the eyes of these men?" Which the phrase there means to literally to throw dust in their eyes, an expression of contempt. Their reply angered Moses, then, who asked God not to accept their offerings. And Moses defended his conduct amongst them, denying that he had ever done any of them wrong. So the following day, then, Korah and the 250 others who had joined him are told to bring their censers before the Lord, and Aaron will do so as well. And they put fire in their censers, they laid incense on them, and they stood at the door of the tent of meeting in the tabernacle. And Korah had assembled the rest of the people at the tent of meeting as well, perhaps expecting to be vindicated. And then we're told that the glory of the Lord appeared. So God has now turned up, and we'll see what happens in verses 20 to 24. And the Lord said to Moses and to Aaron, "Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." And they fell on their faces, and they said, "O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and wilt thou be angry with all the congregation?" And the Lord said to Moses, "Say to the congregation, get away from about the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So the Lord now instructs um, Moses and Aaron to separate themselves from the people because he intends to destroy them, just as he had intended to do so on the previous occasion of their rebellion, as we saw last week in chapter 14. But once again, Moses and Aaron fell on their faces in order to make intercession and to avert the complete destruction of the people again. They address God here as the God of the spirits of all flesh, meaning that it is God who provides life. God is the giver of life to all people. He's the creator of all. And Moses and Aaron ask him, shall one man sin, and wilt thou be angry with all the congregation? So is everyone going to have to suffer because of one man's sin? The one who is guilty of sin is the one who should be punished. That's their argument here. And so now, instead of destroying the whole congregation, as he'd originally expressed, God now warns them to get away from about the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So move away from their dwelling places. Reading on here, verses 25 to 30, we read this. Then Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he said to the congregation, depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be swept away with all their sins. So they got away from about the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents, together with their wives, their sons, and their little ones. And Moses said, hereby you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, and that it has not been of my own accord. If these men die the common death of all men, or if they are visited by the fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates something new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up, with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you shall know that these men have despised the Lord. So Moses here does as God has instructed him, and he goes and warns the people to stay away from the tents of Dathan and Abiram, lest you be swept away with all their sins. Don't get caught up in what's about to happen. And the manner of the deaths of Dathan and Abiram will show whether the Lord has sent Moses and whether he's acted on his own authority. If they die the common death of all men, or if they are visited by the fate of all men, Moses says, then the Lord has not sent me. So if they die a natural death, that will mean that the Lord has not sent Moses, that Moses does not have any special authority from God. However, he goes on to say, if the Lord creates something new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up, with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you shall know that these men have despised the Lord. So to die in that way, with the ground opening up and swallowing them up, this would show that they were guilty, that God had chosen Moses for this role. Moses mentions Sheol there, that they go down alive into Sheol. Sheol was regarded as the dwelling place of the dead, and pictured as being below the surface of the earth. So if the ground opens up and they go down into Sheol, into the place of the dead, then that would be a sign that they were guilty, and Moses did indeed have the authority of God. Well, we see the fulfillment of this now in verses 31 to 35. As he finished speaking all these words, the ground under them split asunder, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, with their households and all the men that belonged to Korah and all their goods. So they and all that belonged to them went down alive into Sheol, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. And all Israel that were round about them fled at their cry, for they said, Lest the earth swallow us up. And fire came forth from the Lord and consumed the 250 men offering the incense. So as Moses finishes speaking here, his words are fulfilled precisely. The ground opened up, the rebels and their households and all that belonged to them went down alive into Sheol, and then the ground closed over them. Verse 33 says, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. Another reference to this is made in Numbers chapter 26 and verses 9 to 11, which is a passage which is talking about the numbering, sort of census and numbering of the different tribes here. And it mentions Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and then they're listed Nemuel, Dathan, and Abiram. These are the Dathan and Abiram, chosen from the congregation, who contended against Moses and Aaron in the company of Korah, when they contended against the Lord. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up together with Korah, when that company died, when the fire devoured 250 men, and they became a warning. Notwithstanding, the sons of Korah did not die. So, reference to this incident being made there later in the book as well. So here, again, the people of Israel who were witnessing this, who were round about, saw this, and they fled. As the people cried out as they went down into the ground, the other people fled. And at the same time, this fire then came from the Lord to destroy the 250 men who were offering the incense. The same thing had happened, of course, to Aaron's own sons, Nadab and Abihu, when they had offered that unholy fire to the Lord in their censers. And we looked at this a few weeks back in Leviticus chapter 10, verses 1 and 2, that because of the unholy fire that they offered, they too were destroyed by fire from God. So in this event here, Moses' leadership and Aaron's priesthood are vindicated by God. They are shown to be the ones who are in the right here. Well, reading on here, verse 36 to 40, Numbers 16, then the Lord said to Moses, tell Eleazar the son of Aaron the priest to take up the censers out of the blaze, then scatter the fire far and wide, for they are holy, the censers of these men who have sinned at the cost of their lives. So let them be made into hammered plates as a covering for the altar, for they offered them before the Lord. Therefore they are holy. Thus they shall be a sign to the people of Israel. So Eleazar the priest took the bronze censers, which those who were burnt had offered, and they were hammered out as a covering for the altar, to be a reminder to the people of Israel, so that no one who is not a priest, who is not of the descendants of Aaron, should draw near to burn incense before the Lord, lest he become as Korah and as his company, as the Lord said to Eleazar through Moses. So through Moses, then, the Lord now gives these instructions to Eleazar, Aaron's son, that he's to take the censers used by the 250 rebels who sinned at the cost of their lives, and he is to make them into a cover for the bronze altar. So although these censers had been used inappropriately, they're still regarded as being holy because they have been offered to the Lord. So Eleazar did then as he's been commanded, and then this covering for the altar would serve as a visual reminder, a sign to the people of Israel, so that no one who is not a priest, who is not of the descendants of Aaron, should draw near to burn incense before the Lord, lest he become as Korah and his company. So this covering on the altar would be that permanent sign, that reminder to the people that no one who's not a priest, not a descendant of Aaron, is allowed to go and offer that service, to burn the incense there in the presence of the Lord. Korah's rebellion is an event that's referred to in the New Testament in the letter of Jude and in verse 11. And it's likened here, Jude uses this, likening it to those in his own day who were in rebellion against God. So Jude and verse 11. Again, in the context here, he's talking about those false teachers, those rebels against God. He says, "Woe to them, for they walk in the way of Cain and abandon themselves for the sake of gain to Balaam's error and perish in Korah's rebellion." So he mentions three characters there from the Old Testament, Cain and Balaam and Korah, and likens the rebellion in his own time to those events from the past that they were following, doing the same kind of things as those had been doing. Well, the complaints continue in verse 41 to verse 50 of chapter 16, which says, "But on the morrow, all the congregation of the people of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, saying, 'You have killed the people of the Lord.' And when the congregation had assembled against Moses and against Aaron, they turned toward the tent of meeting, and behold, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. And Moses and Aaron came to the front of the tent of meeting, and the Lord said to Moses, 'Get away from the midst of this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment.' And they fell on their faces. And Moses said to Aaron, 'Take your censer and put fire therein from off the altar, and lay incense on it, and carry it quickly to the congregation, and make atonement for them. For wrath has gone forth from the Lord, the plague has begun.' So Aaron took it as Moses said, and ran into the midst of the assembly. And behold, the plague had already begun among the people. And he put on the incense and made atonement for the people. And he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stopped. Now those who died by the plague were 14,700, besides those who died in the affair of Korah. And Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tent of meeting when the plague was stopped." So the following day after these events, then the people murmur against Moses and Aaron again, this time accusing them of killing the Lord's people. The glory of the Lord appeared again in the cloud, covering the tent of meeting. And the Lord told Moses and Aaron to get away from the people as he was about to consume them in a moment. So once again, God expresses his intention to destroy the people and warns Moses and Aaron to get away from them. But once again, Moses and Aaron fall on their faces. And this is the third time this has happened in this chapter, as they try to intercede on behalf of the people. Moses instructed Aaron to take his censer and to put fire in it from the altar and incense upon it, and to go quickly amongst the people to make atonement for them. For the wrath of God has come forth now in the form of a plague, which is already destroying some of the people, killing some of the people. So Aaron does as Moses has instructed, to make atonement for the people. And the use of incense, the burning of incense, was used on the Day of Atonement in Leviticus chapter 16, verses 12 and 13. Which says, the instruction given to Aaron here, he shall take a censer full of coals of fire from the altar before the Lord, and 2 handfuls of sweet incense beaten small, and he shall bring it within the veil, and put the incense on the fire before the Lord, that the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat, which is upon the testimony, lest he die. So that incense and the censer had been used on the Day of Atonement. And now Aaron is doing something similar here, but seems to be going amongst the people themselves with this incense to seek atonement for them. So Aaron, we're told here this interesting phrase that Aaron stood between the dead and the living, as if Aaron is providing some kind of barrier there between the dead and the living. And so his intercession then stopped the plague from spreading any further, but still 14,700 people had died, not including the number who had died in Korah's rebellion, which was 250 plus people involved with that. And now the plague, as the plague stopped, Aaron then returned to Moses at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So once again, here in these events, Aaron's position as high priest has been vindicated in him fulfilling that role. We go on to chapter 17 now. It's still a continuation of the story here, and concerns Aaron's rod that budded. So we have another test being proposed here in chapter 17, verses 1 to 7. It says, "The Lord said to Moses, Speak to the people of Israel, and get from them rods, one for each father's house, from all their leaders according to their fathers' houses, 12 rods. Write each man's name upon his rod, and write Aaron's name upon the rod of Levi, for there shall be one rod for the head of each father's house. Then you shall deposit them in the tent of meeting before the testimony, where I meet with you. And the rod of the man whom I choose shall sprout. Thus I will make to cease from me the murmurings of the people of Israel, which they murmur against you." Moses spoke to the people of Israel, and all their leaders gave him rods, one for each leader, according to their fathers' houses, 12 rods, and the rod of Aaron was among their rods. And Moses deposited the rods before the Lord in the tent of the testimony. So again here, to demonstrate to the people God's choice of Aaron as high priest, the Lord instructs Moses to gather together these 12 rods or staffs, one from the leader of each of their fathers' houses of the tribes. And the name of the tribe leader is to be written upon the rod. Aaron's name will be written on the rod that represents the tribe of Levi. So all the other names would be representing the other various tribes there. And then these 12 rods are to be deposited in the tent of meeting before the testimony. That's the Ark of the Covenant. And the rod belonging to the one chosen by the Lord will sprout. And this demonstration then should once and for all make it clear to the people who God has chosen, and therefore it should stop their murmuring, their complaining. So Moses carries out God's instructions here, and then we see the outcome of this in verses 8 to 13. Which goes on, "And on the morrow," so the next day, "Moses went into the tent of the testimony, and behold, the rod of Aaron from the house of Levi had sprouted, and put forth buds, and produced blossoms, and it bore ripe almonds. Then Moses brought out all the rods from before the Lord to all the people of Israel, and they looked, and each man took his rod. And the Lord said to Moses, Put back the rod of Aaron before the testimony, to be kept as a sign for the rebels, that you may make an end of their murmurings against me, lest they die. Thus did Moses, as the Lord commanded him, so he did. And the people of Israel said to Moses, Behold, we perish, we are undone, we are all undone. Everyone who comes near to the tabernacle of the Lord shall die. Are we all to perish? So the following day, then Moses goes back into the tent of meeting, and it's Aaron's rod that has sprouted. producing blossom and ripe almond. So all of the stages of growth and development were on the one rod at the same time, the blossom and the ripe almonds. So the other rods which had failed to sprout then were given back to their owners, but Aaron's rod was to be placed before the testimony, and it was to be kept as a reminder. Verse 10 says, a sign for the rebels, that you may make an end of their murmurings against me, lest they die. So again, this is to be a reminder, a sign for them, and uh, hopefully to stop their murmurings and their complainings against God. In the New Testament, in the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 9 and verse 4, there's a reference here. The writer is describing the different items that were in the Ark of the Covenant, and he mentions the rod here as well. He's speaking of the setup in the tabernacle and the Holy of Holies, having the golden altar of incense, and the Ark of the Covenant, covered on all sides with gold, which contained a golden urn holding the manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. So those were the three items inside the Ark of the Covenant. The urn containing a sample of the manna, Aaron's rod that budded from this incident, and also the tables of the covenant, the stone tablets with the law written on them there. So here at the end of chapter 17, the people spoke to Moses, and they expressed their fear that they would all die, that none of them would be able to draw near to the tabernacle, and they were afraid that they were all going to die. Are we all to perish, they ask. So here they finally realize that they cannot stand before God, in the presence of God, on their own, that they need a high priest, one who can represent them before God, and one who can seek atonement for them. So through these incidents that are recorded here in chapter 16 and 17, it has been shown to the people that Aaron is the one chosen by God, who has the authority to fulfill that role as high priest, as the go-between, the one who can draw near to God and make atonement for the sins of the people. But they can't do it on their own. They don't have the right to approach God in that way. And then into Numbers chapter 18, verses 1 to 7, the Lord emphasizes to Aaron here the role and the responsibilities of the priests and the Levites in relation to the service in the tabernacle. We'll just read the passage here. It's connected with the chapters, what's gone on in chapter 16 and 17, and sort of provides a conclusion to all of this. So the Lord said to Aaron, you and your sons and your father's house with you shall bear iniquity in connection with the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you shall bear iniquity in connection with your priesthood. And with you bring your brethren also, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may join you and minister to you while you and your sons with you are before the tent of the testimony. They shall attend you and attend to all duties of the tent, but shall not come near to the vessels of the sanctuary or to the altar, lest they and you die. They shall join you and attend to the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, and no one else shall come near you. And you shall attend to the duties of the sanctuary and the duties of the altar, that there be wrath no more upon the people of Israel. And behold, I have taken your brethren, the Levites, from among the people of Israel. They are a gift to you, given to the Lord, to do the service of the tent of meeting. And you and your sons with you shall attend to your priesthood for all that concerns the altar, and that is within the veil, and you shall serve. I give your priesthood as a gift, and anyone else who comes near shall be put to death. But God is reminding Aaron here of his role as high priest, that he and his sons are to function at the altar to offer that service. The other Levites, the tribe that Aaron is from, they have a service to perform as well, as we've seen as the carrying the different items when the people were on the march and setting up the tabernacle when they came to rest. So God is indicating here the choice that he has made of Aaron and of the Levites for this special service, and no one else is allowed to do that. As the verse 7 concludes, that anyone else who comes near shall be put to death. From the letter to the Hebrews in the New Testament, we learn how Aaron's priesthood foreshadows the high priesthood of Christ, and how in every respect Christ's priesthood is greater than Aaron's. And it is the atonement that Christ provides as our high priest that now enables us to draw near to God. So here in the book of Numbers, the people couldn't draw near to God. They had to go through Aaron, the high priest. But now, because of Christ and what he has done for us, we can draw near to God. So Hebrews chapter 10, verses 19 to 22, which says, therefore, brethren, since we have confidence to enter the sanctuary by the blood of Jesus, by the new and living way which he opened for us through the curtain, that is, through his flesh, since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith, with our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience, and our bodies washed with pure water. So unlike the Israelites there, we are allowed to draw near to God. We can do so because Christ is our great high priest, and through his blood, he's opened that new way for us. So we will stop there